The wealth trap that's swallowing your retirement isn't bad spending, bad luck, or bad timing. It's the definition of success your generation handed you before you were old enough to question it. Let me introduce you to four people. David is 67, spent 35 years climbing the corporate ladder, owns a beautiful home he bought in the 90s, coached his kids' football teams, and by every traditional measure nailed it. Sandra is 50, senior manager, two incomes in the household, drives a car she loves, holidays twice a year, and her life genuinely looks aspirational. Then there's Jamie, 36. Watched the housing market become something from a nightmare, paid down student debt through his late 20s, and leaned hard into the idea that memories beat mortgages. And finally, we have Aisha, 23. She follows 7 finance accounts, knows what dollar cost averaging means, and has already opened her first investment account. 4 completely different lives, 4 completely different financial situations. And every single one of them is repeating the exact same wealth mistake. Not a version of it, the identical one, just dressed differently for each era they grew up in. Stay with me, because once you see it clearly, you cannot unsee it. Here is the thing, though. This mistake has nothing to do with being reckless or ignorant. Most people who fall into this are actually quite thoughtful about money. They track their spending. They save something. The problem runs deeper than that. At some point in your life, the world around you quietly handed you a definition of what financial success was supposed to look like. A certain lifestyle, a certain possession, a certain signal. And you absorbed it completely without anyone ever explicitly telling you to. It felt like maturity. It felt like earning your place. And that is precisely what makes it so dangerous. Because from inside the trap, it never feels like a trap at all. So let's walk through each person's story. Because the moment you spot the pattern in someone else's life is the moment you'll recognize it in your own. David grew up watching his parents struggle with renting. Ownership was everything to his generation. It meant you had arrived. You were stable. You were serious. So when David got approved for the largest mortgage the bank would give him, he signed without hesitation. And honestly, it worked out. His property is worth significantly more today than what he paid for it. On paper, he looks wealthy. But David is 67 with a net worth almost entirely locked inside one asset he lives in. His workplace pension scheme changed in the mid-90s, and he never fully replaced what was lost. He has savings, but stretching them across potentially 2.5 decades of retirement is a tighter calculation than he ever imagined. The house was never the problem. Believing the house was the entire strategy, that was the trap. Sandra's version was quieter and honestly more seductive. Every single time her income grew, her life grew with it. Promotion at 34, better car, cross 6 figures at 39, move somewhere bigger. Each choice was completely rational on its own. She could afford it. She deserved it. But what never changed was the gap between what came in and what was saved. Her expenses kept perfect pace with every pay rise for 2 decades. At 50, she has real assets, genuine equity, things to show for her career. But the retirement math is tighter than it should be for someone who has been earning well for 20 years. Her generation learned to signal success through lifestyle, and she delivered that signal faithfully on a monthly direct debit without ever questioning the cost. Jamie's situation requires some honesty first. The financial system shifted significantly against his generation. The 2008 crash hit millennials right when they should have been building foundations, and property became genuinely inaccessible for many. That is real, and it matters. But here is what filled that vacuum. When the traditional arrival signals became unreachable, spending shifted toward experiences. Travel, restaurants, festivals, subscriptions, and an entire cultural narrative emerged to validate it, telling Jamie's generation that choosing experiences over assets was actually enlightened thinking. Jamie has extraordinary memories, but at 36, he has minimal investments, no property, and an anxiety about the future that occasionally surfaces between booking the next flight. The trap was not enjoying life. The trap was using enjoyment as a complete substitute for building anything. Then there is Aisha, and this one is fascinating. Gen Z is genuinely the most financially educated young generation that has ever existed. Aisha knows the vocabulary. She understands index funds and compound growth and net worth. You would think this generation escaped entirely, but their version of the trap lives online in full high definition. The arrival signal is no longer a house or a passport full of stamps. It is an aesthetic. The setup, the wardrobe, the carefully curated digital identity that broadcasts financial confidence to thousands of people. Aisha invests £30 a month and is genuinely proud of it. But she spends 4 times that amount maintaining how her financial journey looks online, rather than accelerating what it actually is. The trap for her generation is not ignorance. It is performance. Knowing the right language while the numbers stay smaller than the story suggests. So 4 people, 4 decades, one identical trap wearing 4 different outfits. What actually breaks the cycle? Because people in every generation have escaped it, and the pattern in how they did it is remarkably consistent. They separated the appearance of wealth from the actual construction of it. They made a conscious decision to look slightly less successful than they actually were, so that their real financial position could grow faster than their image. They drove the older car a little longer, stayed in the smaller place a bit more, resisted the upgrade that felt justified, and redirected that difference somewhere it could compound quietly for years. For David, the escape would have been treating the pension with the same priority as the mortgage. Not everything concentrated in one place. For Sandra, choosing one upgrade per raise and aggressively saving the rest, making income growth permanently outpace lifestyle growth. For Jamie, one meaningful trip annually instead of 4 moderate ones, and automating the difference into an index fund every single month. For Aisha, who genuinely still has extraordinary time on her side, making the actual investment number the content, not the aesthetic surrounding it. The principle underneath all of this is straightforward. Assets before lifestyle, every single time. Not permanently. Just until your assets are generating enough that your lifestyle is genuinely funded by them rather than funded against them. None of these 4 people are irresponsible. None of them are financially foolish. They each simply followed the unspoken instructions their generation handed them about what success was supposed to look like. And in doing so, they prioritized appearing to have arrived over actually arriving. And so here's the question I want you to genuinely sit with right now. Which version of this are you currently living? Is your wealth mostly tied up in one single asset? Did your expenses quietly expand to swallow every raise you ever received? Are you collecting experiences while the investment account barely moves? Or are you performing a financial journey that looks more impressive online than the numbers actually reflect? Drop it in the comments, honestly, because naming it out loud is always the first real step through the door.